I want to start today with a question. Think about the last class you visited, or the last assembly you sat through, or the last parent-teacher meeting you sat in on. How many children with disabilities were in that room? If your answer is none, or one, or maybe two, I want to gently suggest something. You may be looking at disability wrong. Not because you're not paying attention, but because most of us have been taught to look for one thing: a wheelchair, a white cane, a child who cannot speak. And when we do not see those things, we assume we are looking at a room full of children without disabilities. We are almost certainly not. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, passed by India in 2016, recognizes 21 categories of disability. 21. Most of them are invisible. Most of them are already sitting in your school, in your classroom, on your benches, in your staff rooms. And most of them are unidentified, unsupported, and quietly falling behind. This is the education verdict powered by India Inclusion Foundation. And in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through all 21 categories, not as a legal list, not as a medical textbook, but as a human being talking to another human being about the children and teachers in our schools. By the end of this episode, I want you to be able to close your eyes and picture a child you've already met for every single one of these categories, because that child is already there. They just need you to see them. Before we get into it, one thing I want to tell you. Everything I'm covering today is also available as a free downloadable guide. It is called the School Leader's Complete Guide to the Disability Spectrum. All 21 categories in the same plain language. Formatted so you can print it, share it with your team, put it in your next staff meeting, or hand it to the teachers who need it. The link is in the description below, and it is completely free. No sign up, no form, just download it and use it. Now, let's get into it. Before I walk you through the 21 categories, 3 things I want you to hold as you listen. First, disability is not binary. It is not either you have it or you do not. Most disabilities exist on a spectrum of mild to severe. 2 children with the same condition can have completely different experiences and completely different needs. Second, most disabilities are invisible. The child with dyslexia looks exactly like every other child. The child managing anxiety looks exactly like every other child. The child with a blood disorder looks exactly like every other child. Invisible does not mean absent. Third, the RPwD Act 2016 is not a charity document. It is a rights document. These 21 categories are not conditions that qualify children for sympathy. They are conditions that qualify children for specific rights, accommodation, and equal access to education. Understanding that distinction changes everything about how you respond. All right, let's begin. Number 1, blindness. The disability most people picture, but there is far more to it. This student cannot access the blackboard, printed worksheets, or visual demonstrations. They navigate the world through touch, sound, and spatial memory. In a classroom where everything is written and projected, they are constantly working twice as hard just to keep up. What schools can begin doing: ensure all printed material is available in audio or braille. Describe what you write on the board aloud. Assign a peer buddy for navigation in new spaces. Seat them where acoustics are clearest. Second, low vision, the invisible sibling of blindness. Most people do not even notice this student can see, but not clearly enough to read standard text from a normal distance. They squint at the board. They hold books too close. They miss facial expressions, and they are often labeled as inattentive. Their vision cannot be corrected fully by glasses or contact lenses. What schools can begin doing is to seat them in the front row, provide enlarged print materials, increase font size on projected content. Never assume that because a child has glasses, their vision is fine. Number 3, leprosy cured persons. The most stigmatized disability in India and the most misunderstood. This is a student or teacher who was treated for leprosy and recovered, but was left with permanent nerve damage, loss of sensation in hands or feet, or visible physical changes. They are fully healthy. They are not contagious, but they carry the weight of one of the most brutal social stigmas in Indian history. What schools can begin doing? The most important thing a school can do is lead by example. Do not allow stigma in your staff room or your classroom. Educate teachers and students that leprosy cured means cured. Their inclusion begins with your language. 4. Hearing impairment. A silent classroom is not the problem. An inaccessible one is. Deaf and hard of hearing students miss teacher instructions delivered with their back turned. They miss group discussions, they miss audio cues, and they often miss the casual social banter that builds friendships. Hard of hearing students may hear some things but mishear others, which can make them seem distracted or confused when they are simply working with incomplete information. What schools can begin doing? Face the class when speaking. Use written instructions alongside verbal ones. Explore basic sign language training for teachers and classmates. Ensure school announcements are also visual, not only over a speaker system. Number 5, locomotor disability. When the building itself is the barrier, this student may use a wheelchair, crutches, or walk with difficulty. In most Indian schools, the building was never designed with them in mind. Stairs without ramps. Bathrooms they cannot enter. Laboratory benches at the wrong height. Assembly grounds they cannot access. Their mind is fully present. The school is what is absent. What schools can begin doing? Conduct a physical access audit of your school. This does not require a massive budget. It requires a decision. Start with one floor, one toilet, one ramp. Dwarfism, a condition of stature, not of capability. A student with dwarfism has shorter than average height due to a medical condition. They face physical barriers. Desks and chairs at the wrong height. Lockers they cannot reach. Equipment designed for taller bodies. They also face social barriers. Being treated as younger than they are. Being spoken to in a condescending tone, or being made the subject of curiosity or laughter. What schools can begin doing? Adjust furniture where possible. Speak to them at eye level. Address any mockery the moment it happens. The message you send in that moment defines whether your school is safe for them. Number 7, intellectual disabilities. Every child can learn. Not every child learns the same way or at the same pace. A student with intellectual disability has limitations in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. They may take longer to understand instructions, need concepts explained in simpler language, struggle with abstract thinking, or need more time on task. They're not less intelligent in the way the world is often used. They process, learn, and express differently. What schools can begin doing? Simplify language without being condescending. Break tasks into smaller steps. Celebrate progress rather than measuring it only against grade level standards. Peer support models and visual learning aids make a significant difference. Number 8, mental illness. The most present and least spoken about disability in Indian schools. This could be a student managing depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, OCD, or psychosis. They may have days when they simply cannot function and days when they seem completely fine. They are not being dramatic. They are not seeking attention. Their brain chemistry is working against them. And the shame attached to mental illness in India means they are almost certainly suffering in silence. What schools can begin doing? Train your teachers to recognize behavioral signs without diagnosing. create a counselor presence in school, build a culture where seeking help is not weakness, remove the language that uses mental illness as an insult. Number 9, autism spectrum disorder. A different way of experiencing the world, not a broken version of the usual one. A student on the autism spectrum may struggle with social communication, find certain sounds or light physically overwhelming, have intense focus interest, need predictable routines, and process sensory information differently from their peers. A school fire drill, a crowded lunch hall, an unexpected change in the timetable. These can be genuinely distressing. Not difficult, genuinely distressing. They're not misbehaving, they are overwhelmed. And what schools can begin doing, predictability is everything. Give advance notice of changes, identify sensory triggers in your school environments, create a quiet space where students can decompress. Peer awareness programs help build genuine understanding, not just tolerance. Number 10, cerebral palsy. The body moves differently. The mind is entirely its own. Cerebral palsy affects movement and motor skills due to brain injury before, during, or shortly after birth. A student with CP may have difficulty walking, controlling their hands, or speaking clearly. But their cognitive ability is completely separate from their physical presentation. Many students with cerebral palsy are academically sharp and deeply frustrated by being underestimated. What schools can begin doing is never assume cognitive ability based on physical presentation. Provide assistive technology for writing where needed. Ensure physical access, and most importantly, listen to them. If their speech is unclear, give them time. Do not speak for them or to someone else on their behalf. Number 11, muscular dystrophy. A condition that progresses, which means the school must be ready to evolve with the student. Muscular dystrophy is a group of generic disorder that cause progressive muscle weakness. A student with MD may have been fully mobile in class 1 and need a wheelchair by class 6. They and their family are navigating a condition that changes over time while also trying to maintain a normal school life. The school's response must evolve with them. And what schools can begin doing is to work closely with the family to understand the students' current needs and anticipate future ones. Ensure physical adaptations are in place before they are urgently needed, and create space for the students to talk about what they need on their terms. Number 12, chronic neurological conditions. When the brain itself is the source of the challenge, this category includes conditions like epilepsy, Parkinson's, related conditions in young people, and other long-term neurological disorders. A student with epilepsy may have a seizure in class. A student with a chronic neurological condition may have days of significant fatigue, confusion, or involuntary movements that disrupt their concentration and their dignity. What schools can begin doing is to train all teachers in basic seizure first aid, have a clear school protocol for medical episodes that is known by all staff, treat medical events with calm and discretion so the student does not face additional shame, communicate with parents regularly. Number 13, specific learning disabilities, the most common disability in any classroom and the least identified. This category includes dyslexia, difficulty with reading and spelling, dyscalculia, difficulty with numbers and mathematics, dysgraphia, difficulty with writing. A student with dyslexia is not a poor reader because they're lazy or unintelligent. Their brain processes written languages differently. They may be highly articulate, creative, and intelligent while struggling intensely with a written exam. In India, they are routinely failed, labeled as slow and pushed to the back of the class. What schools can begin doing? Identify early A student who struggles consistently with reading or writing by class 2 or 3 should be screened, not labeled. Offer alternative assessment formats. Allow extra time in exams. Use audio learning where possible. The RPwD Act 2016 gives these students the right to accommodations. Many schools do not know this. Number 14, multiple sclerosis, a condition that is rare in children but present and almost invisible. Multiple sclerosis is a condition where the immune system attacks the protective covering of nerves, causing a wide range of symptoms, including fatigue, vision problems, balance issues, and cognitive difficulties. A student with MS, they have unpredictable good days and bad days, and their needs can change rapidly. What schools can begin doing is to be flexible. Flexibility is the core response. Attendance policies, assessment timelines, and physical expectations should be adjustable for students with conditions that are episodic in nature. A rigid school structure can be as disabling as the condition itself. Number 15, speech and language disability. They have something to say. The school must create the space to say it. This includes students who stutter, who have articulation disorders, who have lost speech due to neurological events, or who have language processing difficulties. In a classroom where participation means raising your hand and speaking clearly in front of 40 peers, these students often go silent. And when they go silent, they disappear. What schools can begin doing? Never call on a student who stutters without giving them advance notice. Do not finish their sentences. Create participation formats beyond verbal responses, written answers, drawing, digital responses. Refer to a speech therapist early and address any mimicry from classmates immediately. Number 16, thalassemia, a blood disorder that makes ordinary school life extraordinarily demanding. Thalassemia is an inherited blood disorder where the body produces abnormal hemoglobin. Students with thalassemia require regular blood transfusions, often every 2 to 4 weeks. They experience chronic fatigue. They may miss school frequently for medical appointments, and they are managing a condition that most of their classmates and even teachers know nothing about. What schools can begin doing? Coordinate with the family on transfusion schedules. Build a catch-up system that does not punish absences that are medically necessary. Ensure the students' classmates understand enough to be supportive rather than confused or excluding. Number 17, hemophilia, a condition where a minor injury is never minor. Hemophilia is a disorder where blood does not clot properly. A student with hemophilia who falls in the playground, takes a knock in a sports class, or even has a tooth come out, is at risk of serious internal bleeding. They are not fragile in terms of their personality or capability, but their physical safety requires the school to think differently about risk. What schools can begin doing is to ensure the school nurse and all PE teachers understand the condition. Have an emergency protocol. Do not exclude the student from all physical activity, but modify where necessary in consultation with their doctor and family. Treating them as made of glass is not inclusion either. Number 18, sickle cell disease. Painful, invisible, and almost entirely unrecognized in most schools. Sickle cell disease is an inherited blood disorder where red blood cells becomes rigid and shaped like a sickle, blocking blood flow and causing severe pain episodes called crisis. A student in a sickle cell crisis is in genuine agony. They may also experience fatigue, anemia, and organ damage over time. In many Indian states, particularly in tribal communities, this condition is common and almost entirely unsupported. What schools can begin doing? Recognize the signs of a pain crisis and have a protocol for immediate response. Do not dismiss a student's pain as exaggeration. Ensure hydration and warmth in the classroom. Cold and dehydration can trigger crisis. Communicate with the family about the student's current health status regularly. Number 19, multiple disabilities, including deaf blindness, the most complex category and the one that demands the most creativity from schools. This category covers students who have more than one disability simultaneously. Deaf blindness, which is the combination of both hearing and vision impairment, is specifically named. A student who is both deaf and blind experiences the world almost entirely through touch. They cannot rely on the adaptations designed for deaf students or the adaptations designed for blind students. They need an individualized approach built specifically for them. What schools can begin doing? This category requires specialist support and genuinely individualized education planning. The starting point is acknowledging that a one-size approach does not work here and committing to finding out what the specific students need. Number 20, acid attack survivors. Survivors of targeted violence recognized as persons with disability in India. The RPwD Act 2016 includes acid attack survivors as persons with disability, which is a landmark recognition. An acid attack causes permanent damages to skin, eyes, and airways, often resulting in vision loss, severe disfigurement, and reduced mobility. The psychological trauma is equally significant. A student or teacher who is an acid attack survivor is carrying both visible and invisible damage every single day they walk into the school. What schools can begin doing? The school's response begin with language and culture. An environment where a survivor is stared at, discussed, or pitied rather than respected is not an inclusive one. Sensitize students and staff. Address any unkind behavior immediately and ensure the individual has access to counseling support. 21. Parkinson's disease. Rare in students but present in teachers and school staff. Inclusion goes both ways. Parkinson's disease is a progressive nervous system disorder affecting movement, causing tremors, stiffness, and balance problems. While uncommon in school-age children, it does occur, and it is also highly relevant for teachers and school staff. A teacher with early Parkinson's may be managing tremors, fatigue, and a condition they may not have disclosed to their employer. What schools can begin doing is inclusion is not only about students. A school leader who creates an inclusive environment for staff with disabilities sends a message that inclusion here is real, not just a policy on paper. Ask, listen, accommodate where possible, and protect the dignity of anyone managing a condition they did not choose. 21 categories, one law, one country, hundreds of thousands of schools. And one question I want to leave with you today. Of these 21 categories, how many does your school have a written response to? How many has your staff been trained to recognize? How many have you ever spoken about in a staff meeting? I'm not asking this to make you feel bad. I'm asking it because I genuinely believe that most school leaders in India are good people who want to do right by their students. The gap is not intention. The gap is awareness. And awareness is exactly what today was all about. In the next episode of this series, we are going to hold up a mirror. We are going to look at what Indian schools are currently getting wrong on inclusion. Not out of malice, but out of unawareness. And we are going to look at what the law actually requires of you. But today, I just want you to sit with the 21. Think of a child, any child, a child you have been meaning to understand better, a child you have been wondering about, a child whose struggle you have not quite been able to name. Maybe today gave you a language for what you have been seeing all along. This is the education verdict. powered by India Inclusion Foundation. And this one was for every child in your school who is waiting to be seen. I will see you next Friday. Good night.